Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm really looking forward to the conversation that we'll be talking about today. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I'm so happy that you have decided to just spend some of your time having, or just I guess engaging, listening to this conversation and my series on starting from scratch as it relates to Christian dating. If you have been rocking with me from the start, thank you so very much. I really do appreciate it, and appreciate everyone who has subscribed to my channel in such a short time and has really connected to the material that I have been sharing. I felt like it was important for us to talk today about this topic because it really does impact and influence who we are and how we are in the dating experience, which is breaking up. Breaking up can be really hard, and we all have been impacted differently from breakups, and I believe it's really important for us to talk about breakups because how we re-enter the dating experience, who we are in dating, some of the rigidities, some of the shame like I talked about last video, and just some of the challenges that arise in how we date and who we are when we date can be directly tied to previous and past breakups that we have had. It is no surprise that if we go through an incredibly hurtful or traumatic breakup, then the next time we have the opportunity to open ourselves up to someone, we may be not so inclined to really rethink and experience something fun and beautiful and fulfilling for both parties within dating. And I really wanted to talk about breakups because I think it directly influences the boundaries and the limits we set on ourselves and on someone else in dating. And so by being able to take some of the pressure of marriage off of the table, I am hoping that we can have a really meaningful conversation about breaking up, about boundaries, and how we can re-enter dating refreshed and just with an open mind. It's really interesting because this week or last week, how Facebook does those memories, and with it just being graduation season, I came across my own graduation picture from last year, when I graduated with my doctorate. And I remember on graduation weekends when so many of my friends and my family had flown with me out to California for my graduation. Not too many months earlier, I had just experienced a breakup. And, during that weekend, I really thought that my ex at the time would have still attended my graduation, but he chose not to, which is obviously his right. But the impact of that decision and the impact just of the breakup in general had weighed pretty heavily on me and really could have stolen some of the joys from my graduation experience. I mean, can you really think about being a graduate, like something as huge as crossing the stage for your doctorate, and the fun and the fulfillment and just the exuberance in that experience being stolen by a breakup? And I know that, we can connect it to something like graduation, but the reality is when we talk about dating and the ability to meet someone new and start afresh, it really is the same experience. The same way how I almost let a breakup steal my joy at my graduation really is the same way that many of us really can let breakups steal the joy of dating. And that is not what I wanted for me, and that is certainly not what I want for you. And so hopefully in this chat, you can really be able to re-explore what the impact of the breakup and what it had on you, and how you can use that to motivate you to release rigidity in dating, but also help you to be aware of your boundaries and be able to feel free to communicate those boundaries in getting to know someone and building a dope connection. It's really interesting because at the end of a breakup, there's a story that we tell ourselves. Breakups hold narrative, and depending on who you are and depending on the circumstances around what led to the termination of your relationship, there's a story that you might have told yourself about you, about the opposite sex, about the relational experience, about love, about dating, about marriage. Breakups hold stories. And so I think before you can think about dating after a breakup, I really want to encourage you to think about what is the narrative that you have told yourself about the dating experience, about love, or about your breakup that is really going to motivate how you re-enter the dating experience. That information is critical because it's going to make the difference between you giving yourself a fair chance and between you giving someone else a fair chance to get to know you, to get to really get to the core of who you are and how you are, to be able to have fun together in dating. It's important that we explore the narrative because sometimes a breakup can push us to be very narrow or rigid in how we re-enter getting to know someone again. I also often like to say that at the end of the breakup is a good time for you to think about, are there ways that you might have betrayed yourself in that relationship or in that dating experience that may have led to the termination of that relationship? Often the narratives that we hold around breaking up really does cause us to think about the other person. If you are a woman like me and you are into dating men, then it may make you say, you know what, next time around, I'm never going to date a guy who is XYZ, fill in the blank. But really and truly, a lot of times what happens in dating that leads to breaking up is that we betray ourselves. We betray our values. We betray our desires. We betray our needs. And eventually it all explodes. It all exhausts itself. And so the relationship ends. But before you think or limit or label what types of individuals you will never encounter romantically again, I want you to think about what ways you might have betrayed yourself. Be very clear and specific on those values. Be very clear and specific on your desires and on your needs. Because if you are not, then the likelihood that you will betray yourself again may occur. But more so about what did you suppress within yourself? What did you give up? What did you stay silent on? What parts of yourself did you erase and violate that led to that relationship not being beneficial, not being fulfilling, or not being healthy? That information is going to be very, very important. And it might be hard work. I know it might be a little hurtful or just take a little bit more emotional bandwidth within you to really think through. But I really, really want to challenge you to do that. Another thing that breakups can do when we re-enter dating is similar to when we go shopping, right? And like I've shared many times before, a lot of my dating analogy has come from my shopping process. There are times when I go shopping and I know exactly what I'm going to look for. Similar to dating, I might have known that this is the type of guy I am interested in, and that's it. If I'm re-entering the dating world, these are the specific things, the specific way he must look, the type of job he must have, the types of money he might be making, the types of just personality things that he must have that continues to kind of limit and narrow down my options. And I'm not talking about character. I'm not talking about values. I'm talking about some of the more frivolous things that we can give ourselves room within. But there are times when I go shopping and I might walk in looking for a particular item and something else catches my attention. And so when we go dating, it's very similar and can be beneficial for us to think about in the same way. You might have gone in for a green shirt, right? But what happens if you see a yellow shirt that you like, or a yellow shirt in the same style? They don't have green, but they have yellow. What happens if you go and looking for a particular shoe item or any item in the shopping process, and they may not have that item? Are you open to, if a dress has a zipper and not bottoms? Buttons? Are you open to, if a shoe might not necessarily be 3 inches high, it might be 2.5 inches high? If you're a guy, are you open to, if there is not a particular video game, Call of Duty or something, that there's another type of game that's available that can be just as fulfilling, just as beautiful, just as, a beautiful experience for you? You just have to be open about being flexible. The challenge with breakups, when we don't allow ourselves to process breakups, and when we let our breakups influence how we re-enter dating, is that the hurt, the unresolved pain from the breakup can really force us to just go in and say, this must be the type of person that I must connect with next. And I really want you to think about how flexible you might be and how much open you might be to having a dope connection with someone who comes in a different package, who may remind you in certain ways of your ex, but may not necessarily be the same person in that relationship, and not allow your breakups to make you narrow and rigid and unable to be flexible in where you make a connection, who you make a connection with, and how you really enjoy and develop something beautiful with someone new. Are you open to that sort of experience, or has your breakup made you so rigid because of the hurt, because of the pain, that you are no longer flexible to the connections that you can build? So breakups really hold story. It tells a narrative, and it influences how we re-enter dating again. I'll be pretty transparent. When I met my current boyfriend, I wasn't expecting to re-enter dating. I wasn't expecting to build a relationship at that point. However, I was open, I was flexible, and it just so happened that I kind of lucked out. The reality is that flexibility and being open-minded, and I didn't let the hurt from what had occurred in my breakup really make me narrow and closed off to what I could have experienced. And it turned out to be one of the best blessings for me, and that's one of the blessings that I want for you. The other thing that happens, like we talked earlier about how you might have betrayed yourself, betrayed your desires, betrayed your needs in a relationship that led to a breakup that can influence dating, is when it comes to boundaries. Often when I tell people about how I view dating, they view it as this fun, frivolous thing with no limits, no boundaries, and those are just the only ways to have fun in dating. But on the contrary, I think that the most fulfilling dating experiences come from an honest assessment and evaluation, and taking inventory of your wants, your values, your needs, your desires, being able to communicate that to each other so that the dating experience can be fulfilling for both. Often when I talk to men that I have dated, men that I am friends with, that I have relationships with, they tell me all the time, Tiffany, you ask all these questions, and for the most part, women don't really ask us these questions. And I realize, even when I talk to my girlfriends, that there is a fear of clarity, of getting clarity, there's a fear of setting boundaries, there's a fear of asking certain questions that may come off as tough or hard questions, because in some way there's this belief that by communicating these things, you are coming across as too seriously, or the person may no longer be interested. But the reality is that fulfillment cannot happen in secrecy. Fulfillment does not happen in someone suppressing themselves or their needs or their values. And a fun dating experience cannot happen where there is not truth, where there is not vulnerability, where there is not a safe space to be able to share what each person is expecting, desiring, or wanting out of the interaction. And so I really want to encourage you to think about what are some of those boundaries, some of those needs that that matters deeply to you. And I'm not just saying anything that's frivolous. I'm talking about those values and those needs that really impact and mean the world to you. And I want you to think about what is getting in the way of you being able to communicate that to the individual that you are dating, to the individual that you are in relationship with, so that you can experience the next level. Listen, I'll tell you, when I was on my second date with my boyfriend, we had what I considered to be a really open-minded conversation. And I was just, really open and clear about some of the things that I desired, some of the things that meant the world to me. And it didn't steal the fun. It didn't steal the moment. It didn't change and challenge the interaction. And I asked them to be clear because, as women, sometimes we have one perspective and they have another. But it didn't mess it up because there was authenticity, there was vulnerability, and there was an open mutual understanding of each other. And that helped to build our relationship to a place that it is healthy, it's happy, it's fun. And what I want you to do is to think about what is challenging and stopping you from being able to get to that point, from being able to feel confident and free in communicating and setting your boundaries and your limits in the dating experience. I really, really would want to encourage you. Dating flourishes. Dating is nourished by vulnerability. It's nourished by truth. And often what happens is when we have these conversations, it's because we are being motivated and pushed by getting to the altar. The marriage pressure is on our shoulders. And so we don't want to push and force. But when we remove the marital pressure and we date for fun and we date to get to know somebody, we date to get to build interactions and connections and to build healthy relationships, what happens is that we are able now to genuinely get to know each other for the sake of what's happening in this moment. It's not that I'm trying to get you to the altar. It's that I'm trying to help you to see what makes dating fun for me. What makes getting to know someone else fulfilling for me, and what can create a safe environment so that we can really flourish and build and nurture this thing in this moment. So truth and vulnerability must exist so that you can have fun and freedom in dating. It won't happen if you are not able to freely communicate. And so what I would encourage you to do in your dating relationship is to talk to your boo or talk to this person and, ask questions about what matters to you, what makes you feel seen, what makes you feel liked, what makes you feel like I am interested in you, and how can I create a safe space for you in this dating experience, and what will feel like safe space for me in this dating experience, and communicating that to each other. I also want us to create space for people to not be in the dating experience for the same thing as us, and that is okay. You then choose if you will continue. You then choose if you will continue to get to know that person and build something with that person. But it's okay for someone to say, I'm not looking for something deep right now. I'm not looking for no relationship right now. I might just be looking for a sexual connection. I might just be looking for, someone to chill with. We must not shame or, just really put down people for their authenticity and their truth. We have to create safe space, even if it means that we are looking for different things. So let's go our separate ways. But truth, vulnerability, safe space must exist so that there can be fun and fulfillment in dating. So that's the first step that I would encourage you to do. I want you to really, really think about what makes it difficult for you to communicate and be authentic and be truthful, and how rejection or fear of rejection is tied to that. And we'll chat more next time. So please feel free to like, subscribe, share this video. Let us continue to explore ways to have fun in dating, to be fulfilled, and to just develop dope connections with someone else. Bye. I'll see you next time.